Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Masters Madrid is over and one team has walked away the champion. It's Sentinels that have done it, going into the tournament with so much pressure, so much expectation on their shoulders to replicate the success they had back in Reykjavik in Masters 2021. They've got the job done in the end. Zelsis, a massive part as to why over the last few weeks has massively turned around the success of this organisation, from the bundle sales and now to the results as well. Gen.G not enough in the end, despite the major V2 advantage in the grand finals. What next for the Sentinels team? Are they basically locked in as well to World Championship qualification? So much to discuss here. Which team is going to be able to take them down? Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, we've got to talk about Clove. They were announced, of course, into the game quite a while ago now, and these are all of the abilities they have to offer. So, yeah, basically Clove is in action here. This is a pretty funny screenshot that, well, I'm pretty sure it was Boaster actually tweeted about this, so let me just find it real quick. When you come out the shower and forget the towel. So, there's some interesting abilities here. Effectively, seems like to me Reyna-esque, so the people in ranked want to play them, but also mainly it's a controller. So a controller agent, but with interesting abilities. So Clove has this first ability called Pick Me Up here, where if you get a kill, effectively it's like Reyna, where you can absorb the life force of a fallen enemy that was either damaged or killed, gaining speed and temporary health. So, and it actually comes up very similarly to Reyna as well. So that is one ability, which is okay probably. This is the ultimate, so I guess we'll discuss that in just a second. The medal is kind of interesting, which actually seems kind of powerful to me. So, a pretty big radius of effect here. A fragment that if it hits anyone, it has a short delay, which decays all targets caught inside. So it's going to make those inside the area of effect, like, really rather weak for this period. So that seems pretty powerful to me, and the area is rather strong to be fair, but I think there's only one of them, so maybe that's not so bad. This is the other ability as well, the Ruse, which is just obviously the smoke grenades because it's a controller. But this is the other point. Clove can use this ability after death, which is... that's pretty crazy to me. I don't know if that's going to get nerfed, but clearly, as a new agent, they want it to be, want it to be viable. So that seems particularly strong to me. And then the ultimate is effectively another resurrection, which I've managed to somehow miss again after clicking on it for a while now. So the way this works is, when you die, you resurrect yourself, so it's not like a sage res or anything, but you have an area of time effectively to decide if you want to resurrect, and then when you do come back, as you can see the resurrection right there, you then get the choice to, well, you need to get a kill within a select period of time. Either get a kill or earn a damaging assist within that set of time, and if you don't, then you die. So it's quite interesting, because you can't just use the res for free in any circumstance. You need to only use it in abilities where you know you're going to be able to get a kill in a relatively brief period afterwards, because, otherwise you're going to go back to death again. But as Chet says, right, a few of the last few agents we have had, on paper they've been strong, but maybe haven't quite delivered expectations. And as Chet says, actually, from NRG, the abilities are pretty underwhelming if you were to solo into double controller comps, right? Which is a fair point, because as a controller, because if you're going to put Clove in, it's got to be, with Omen or with Viper, and then you got to wonder whether that's really for the best. So, yeah, we'll see how this goes, I suppose. Now, as Leah Farrier says as well, we've got to dive into this Sentinels versus Paper X stuff, because they played a couple of days ago with Sentinels taking the victory, and then, of course, that set up the Gen.G match in the grand finals. But actually, Paper X are beating Sentinels in performing VCT team capsules. Now, there was some discussion on this, whether the numbers that Leah Farrier said, no, it wasn't really numbers, are based on sales or based on utilization. There is, I believe what Leah's talking about is the popularity of the capsule, not necessarily in terms of how much it's sold, but in terms of how much it's used. So I think it seems to be the case that Sentinels may have sold more bundles, but people use the Paper X one more if they own it. They equip it at a higher percentage than the Sentinels one, I believe, and that at least is the discussion on it lately, and maybe it's just a bit sexier, you could argue as well. So, there's that too. But speaking of Sentinels, they were in the grand finals, of course, in Masters Madrid. I didn't get the video done yesterday to recap their game up against Paper X to make it to the finals, because by the time I was going to be able to get it uploaded yesterday after the Formula 1 Grand Prix yesterday morning, it'd have been too close to the actual grand finals. I thought, you know what, I'll just wait for tomorrow and then see how we got to this point, right? So, yeah, Sentinels in the grand finals yesterday, and it looked like a massively difficult hurdle to overcome. They'd lost to Gen.G in the winner's side, they'd dropped down to losers, they'd got the job done against Paper X, they'd made the grand finals, and it seemed like, especially after Sen lost to Gen.G, this was going to be the time for the Pacific region to finally win a tournament. It seemed like it was almost destined to happen. Gen.G looked so good. Paper X looked like they were up for the fight as well. But Xelsis has been such an important part of this team. And I feel like despite the veto advantage that Gen.G had, once it became clear that they were not going to be able to dominate these maps in the way that they had maybe done previously when Sentinels were not playing their best a couple of days ago, that's when Sentinels came to play. And Xelsis was, I think, a massively important part of it. Obviously, he's the vibes guy, but also he was talking trash to these guys, telling them to sit down in Korean. You know, he was standing up, bringing the energy, and you could see that the life force in some ways of Gen.G started to drain away when it felt like they no longer had the upper hand, right? But they go into the grand finals, they get to ban Sentinels Lotus, they get to ban Sentinels Sunset, so they've got to play the other 7. They won the Breeze. The Binds, though, was a really important game here for Sentinels to win in the overtime in the end. Sassy turned up big time on this one, actually, but the real plays that, I mean, deserve so much credit were from Zekken, especially from TenZ. Like, the entire team played so well down the stretch. They all had their moments in this one, to be honest, but after the Ascent, it was 13-8. That is not Sentinel's best map. Of course, they lost it with that interesting composition to Loud not that long ago now, where there was some discussion on it. TenZ obviously had 19 frags here, Xelsis had 9, and obviously they're bringing the energy. Gen.G 1 map away at this point. But then we go to the split. I think this is where really the tides turned, because you can see here actually not even that many retakes from Sentinels, just killing Gen.G before they even get to the bomb site, right? They didn't even need to defuse that many rounds here because they were just shutting down their attacks. Zekken was a massive part as to why. Munchkin and Lakia got shut down this one, and we discussed it the other day that Sentinels on split are so good. They lost it uncharacteristically, but they are still so hard to beat. And like 8 frags or 8 rounds on their defensive side is kind of what you expect from Sentinels. And then they did enough on their attack to get the job done. They had so many plants here. The economy was in a great position, and they get the victory there and bring the energy into Icebox, where so many of these grand final series seem to end. And Sentinels at this point just had all the momentum, and they take the victory. Gen.G, I mean, man, they've got all the talent in the world. Like, these guys shoot so straight, it's incredibly impressive. But there's always been questions about those teams that when it comes down to, you know, the grand finals, to when it really, the pressure is truly on, are those teams able to deliver on that consistent basis? And on maybe on this level, not quite. I mean, unbelievable result here from Sentinels. We talked about this team so much, right? A long time ago when they were scrimming during Champions last year, when the rumour had it, they were looking particularly good. We didn't know who their IGL was. You guys probably remember, actually, that there were questions on, is it FNS IGLing this team? Then it became clear it was John QT, and he's been the best pickup for these guys. The first African winner as well of a VCT event, possibly the first African winner, really, of any tier 1 esport in quite some time, which is obviously Moroccan. Such a cool story. They called him the Moroccan TenZ, and you can see why, because the addition that he's made to this team has completely turned these guys around in some way. Zekken is a phenomenal player. It was great to see him play his best yesterday as well. TenZ, we know what this guy does, but after all the criticism that TenZ got over the last few years, all the criticism that Sentinels were taking as a team and as an organisation, to deliver a result like this on the international stage, to win their own kickoff, to come to Masters Madrid, and to beat absolutely everybody in their path. They had a hard road at times. They've beaten everyone necessary. Game 5, winning on this map. Tough, of course, for Gen.G. They'll try and be back stronger, as Lakia says. GG's 2-3, didn't get the trophy. Proud of our team, they did a great job. So, yeah, I'm sure Gen.G will be back and stronger. They were really the surprise package of this entire last couple of months. But we've known that Sentinels were good for some time. The question was, would they be able to deliver again internationally? They won the Africa TV tournament, and that was impressive, but it was the off-season. Would they be able to show up when it really mattered? And, well, we got the answer. TenZ wins the first ever 2-time Masters champion, right? Of course, after Reykjavik as Sentinels back in 2021. And then today, not the first 2-time event winners, we've had that before, but as Masters champions. Then this is the first time that has happened. Lots of reaction as well, as Zekken says, hard work pays off. And I think that is the point really with Sentinels, that the discussion used to be, yeah, they're the Clout's team, they've got the big names, they've got the big brands, but are they really as committed? Are they grinding as hard? That was always the meme, wasn't it? They weren't putting in the work. They weren't, scrimming as much as other teams were, but they have been probably the hardest working team, certainly up there over the last 7 months. Kaplan and Drew Spark, the coach analyst respectively, or assistant coach respectively, deserve so much credit for this. Really happy for those guys. And I think Kaplan, Drew Spark isn't so public about like exactly how he's involved in the team, although I'm sure he deserves a lot of credit. But I think Kaplan's mentality, the way that he talks, the way that he speaks about things, the responsibility he takes for the results they have is just indicative of exactly what you want your coach to be, and the relationship that he clearly has and that entire staff has with their lineup is just as good as it gets. There's no secret that Sentinels have had, and have had for some time, but haven't capitalized on all the pieces necessary to win events such as this and get results such as this. They've had the talent for a while, that nobody has denied that, but I think Zelsis has brought a new element as well. John QT, Kaplan have been massively important, but I think Zelsis might have just been the cherry on top of the cake in terms of bringing the necessary energy to this team. He's absolutely the guy that you want on your team in that type of scenario, and I think this is Zelsis' first tweet in about a month here that he actually doesn't promote the Sentinels bundle, but I guess he does, kind of, well, indirectly as it were. So lots of reaction as well from other players also. Marved says this, I'm sure that he's kind of gutted that he's not on Sentinels. He got the chance to play with them last year when he was actually IGLing for the team briefly, of course. That was never going to be a long-term thing, and he's ended up on NRG once again. And as Ethan says, from NRG, also from NRG, I'm a bit gutted really, because NRG made it to the playoffs in the Americas. The only team they lost to in a close series was Sentinels. There was a 2-1 series that NRG could have won. So the only team NRG have lost to this year were the champions of the kickoff and the champions of Madrid. NRG might be the second best team in the world. Probably not, but you know what I mean? Like, they might be, but we haven't got a chance to see, because they lost in a close series to Sentinels, which was single elimination. They didn't get to go to the playoffs, like the finals, of course, at the kickoff, to see how they would have done there against Loud, for example, and then they haven't made it internationally, while Sentinels, meanwhile, are picking up the points. So I'd be kind of gutted if I was NRG about the way this format has turned out. Of course, it's 100T who play their opening Stage 1 game against Sentinels in a couple of weeks, so we'll see how they fare. But already, have a look at this. This is in the Americas, but this is also true around the world, that the kickoff winner gets 3 points for the World Championship qualification. The Masters winner also gets 3 points. More points are kind of unlocked over the course of the season, but what is the team going to be that can take these guys down? Loud are close in the Americas, there's no doubt. NRG, I think, are close in the Americas. Other teams maybe can give it a go as well. Internationally, Gen.G, when it came to a best of 5, even with the veto advantage, didn't quite have enough. Paper X can't beat Sentinels, as we've seen so far. Loud can't beat Sentinels, as we've seen so far. Fnatic, we'll see about them. But Carmine Corp, Sen beat them. Heretics, Sen beat them. Like, their results are impeccable. And what is the team that's going to be able to put a run together to take these guys down from now to the end of the year? So massively intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.